On this episode of Deep Thrones, we review House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 4, The Red Dragon and the Gold. We break down the epic battle at Rook's Rest. We dissect the discord in both the Greens and the Black small councils. Plus, I write a trial by combat for Kristen Cole, and many more hilarious segments. Winter is here.
Not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots, hitting bricks.
Welcome to Deep Thrones, the most entertaining World of Ice and Fire podcast out there. I'm Sims, my partner Sheedy's here. What's up, Sheedy?
Hi, I'm John. Thank you, Chris. Hi, I'm John Sheedy. Quickly, just want to say hello to everyone out there listening, everyone out there watching. You might notice that I'm dressed a little differently this week. And I mentioned this on Deeper Thrones. I'm going to be dressing up a little bit. I'm going on a bit of a PR tour for Team Greens. So I feel like a lot of negative press out there about Team Greens. I think the showrunners have picked a side, and I think that's an issue. And I'm trying to, since I'm I would like to think on our podcast, I obviously am the poster child for Team Greens. But in the media, too, I think a little bit. Like, we're getting there. And I of course, have a lot of folks talking about my relationship with Team Greens.
Many folks.
Many folks. And I think it's incumbent upon me. I'm taking it upon myself to change the image around. I think that too many people are dogpiling on the Greens. And all I'm saying is give it a few more episodes. I said give it a few into Season 2. Give it a few more. All right? I'm seeing your memes. They're inappropriate. They're unfunny. The one this week was super popular. Alicent realizing she mixed up the Aegons and starting a war. And to me, it's just like, listen, I know for Team Blacks, like, cognition and remembering things is difficult, but Alicent didn't start the war. Otto did. So let's get that through our heads, all right?
Otto's on which side again?
The Greens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not because of a name mix-up, all right? It's got a lot to do with just a lust for power.
And you're staying in this race, huh? Let me put it simply for everyone. Sheedy's staying in this race, even though there's a lot of bad performance out of his side. Some would say very sleepy and very negligent performance.
Wow, I see what you're trying to do there, and I don't find it funny. I find it insulting. And I want to give a quick shout out. This cardigan, it's got a Mr. Rogers vibe, so I think I'm making everyone comfortable, making everyone feel good. I'm like, hello, neighbor, I'm doing that whole thing. And I want to give a quick shout out to the cardigan store. Fits like a dream.
Kohl's? We'll take a Kohl's sponsorship.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know where this is from. I think my mom bought it for me.
From Kohl's.
Yeah.
So this is a great spot for us to say, join us on our YouTube channel, subscribe. You'll get all the updates when we post this episode and as well as our midweek episode. And then also follow us on our socials, Instagram, Twitter, X. TikTok's a big one for us. Our master of TikToks had a banger of a video where she strongly disagreed with our takes on the Alicent and Rhaenyra situation last episode. So give us a follow and subscribe.
Definitely. And her suspension will be done soon, just another week and a half, and then that will be fully served, and she'll be right back in seat. But TikTok does actually suspend us like every other week.
Yeah, they basically will like shadow ban you and just not tell you why.
We have no understanding as to why. All we do is swear a little bit, talk about feet, sometimes use innuendo. But other than that,
I think we're pretty clean as far as like internet content goes.
Let me tell you something, TikTok. Now that I'm wearing a cardigan, I feel like I'm gonna start calling my local congressman. And if you don't get on the ball here and straighten up your game, then maybe congressman of my local area here, maybe he'll vote for that bill.
I think that's like a thing that's happening.
Like it already happened, you're saying?
I mean, I don't get me on record here, but I'm pretty sure that wheel is in motion.
Fantastic.
And the people who have TikTok currently will still be able to use it, but people in the future years like aren't going to be able to like create accounts or something. Is the thought process?
We could sell the Deep Thrones TikTok. We're making money hand over fist today.
The black market for honestly, you just create a bunch of accounts today. You could sell them.
Oh my God, you guys, we should charge you for this. We're going to Shark Tank with the TikTok. This is great.
Hey.
Oh my God, the cardigan has completely changed the game. Thank you, the cardigan store.
This is why you listen to Deep Thrones for all sorts of ideas.
But before we get really going on this episode, this was an emotional episode. Me and Chris were prepared for it. We, having conversations with a lot of you guys know that you probably weren't as prepared for it, but you crazy Game of Thrones fans have a lust for blood. But this episode was season 2, episode 4 of House of the Dragon, called A Dance of Dragons. And
we'll dive into the review. We start off, Daemon's in the throne room. We know he last left off in Harrenhal, so this has to be a dream.
Yeah.
He goes up. There's Millie Alcock on the throne, a.k.a. young Rhaenyra. Again, the second time seeing her.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show, like, this is what Daemon's perception of Rhaenyra is still this young girl.
Definitely.
Who's kind of stole his throne. But she's speaking High Valyrian in the scene. She says, "You created me, Daemon. Now you're destroying me. All because your brother loved me more than he did, or more than he did you." And then he ends up slicing the fake Rhaenyra's head off. And then she goes, "This is what you always wanted, wasn't it?"
Yeah, and it's a great. I mean, I'm loving. It's beating a drum here that I've already beaten, but I love the Harrenhal scenes. What they're doing with Daemon at Harrenhal with the young Rhaenyra move, like. You could argue, I think, on a lesser show that a forced cameo is sort of like, okay. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But that they had an opportunity to do it right, and this is one of the things that they've done 110% right, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it gives us a look into the mind of a character that is, like, notoriously shifty. And it's a good way to be able to, like, see what he's feeling, why he's not sending ravens back to Dragonstone. Partially why he left Dragonstone to begin with and decided to go to Harrenhal to kind of make his own kind of, I mean, he had the crown in the Narrow Sea, and now he's trying to get a crown in the Riverlands. So
yeah, and she looked. It was funny when he saw her. I thought for some reason when she was walking down from the throne, she looked like she had his hair from when he came back from fighting the crab feeder, kind of. Didn't she kind of have that vibe at first?
Yeah, like a little.
I thought they were going that way, but then they were just. It didn't really ever materialize. Yeah. So I actually have in my notes, whatever you do, don't mention that on pod.
So then Daemon wakes up, and Simon Strong is basically saying there's a raven that came from Rosby and Stokeworth. This was something that we broke down in one of the first trailers that we saw. But Rosby and Stokeworth, of course, were houses that were loyal to the Blacks and Rhaenyra's cause.
Right.
Kristen Cole shows up with an army. All of a sudden, you're not that loyal anymore.
Yeah.
So they switch over and join Aegon and Kristen Cole's forces. And then they're trying to figure out, they being Simon Strong and Daemon, where that army's going to head. So right now, they're thinking, they might be heading toward Harrenhal. But that's pretty much where that kind of wake-up scene ends.
Conventional wisdom is they're going to head toward Harrenhal because everyone believes that the Riverlands are essentially the key to this entire war. Because if you control the Riverlands, you sort of can cut off the West if you play it right. So there's a lot at stake there with the Riverlands, and then this eventually leads to Daemon treating with Oscar Tully.
Which, in the last episode, he said, "Bring us your Lord Paramount," right? Which was the House Tully. The Lord is actually Grover Tully, but it turns out he's ill and too frail to be able to treat with Daemon. So Daemon sends his grandsire, Oscar Tully, Grover sends his grandsire, Oscar Tully, who is, in all but name, basically running Riverrun.
And he's just a boy.
He's a young boy.
He's just a boy. The grandfather is in ill health, obviously, as Chris just said. And the entire point of this scene is Daemon is having a really hard time. And he even makes a joke that the kid could just smother the grandfather and then raise the army for him. And he's like, he raised me himself. And Daemon was like, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a joke that was. I think Daemon's...
It was one of those jokes that you're like, you joke, but you just want to see if they'll take the bait.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you're with a chick, you're like, we should make out.
And I think this is another kind of character introduction where we'll probably see more of Oscar Tully moving forward. Because like we said, I mean, the Lord is sick and just about dying. So I think Oscar's going to be a pretty important figure moving forward when we talk about the Riverland struggles.
Definitely. And from there, just a quick scene, Rhaenys meets with Corlys.
Yes. So we're at high tide at these shipyards again, and Alan of Hull just basically lives on that ship in the dock. Rhaenys walks up, sees Alan of Hull. You could tell right away she's like gazing into his eyes. She mentions his look and how comely he is, and your mother must have been beautiful. she knows that this is Corliss's bastard son.
Yeah, and Corliss she sort of grills him a little bit once he rolls up, and it's pretty awkward, but he's like, are you here to interrogate me? And she's like, no, I'm here because that council of Rhaenyra's is, well, first off, Rhaenyra's an absentee queen, and she says the council is sort of picking it apart, and we need some stern leadership.
Yeah, and as we get to that scene later, we'll see that that's true. But before that, she did mention one line that I think is important as we, look forward to, potential dragon seeds and people who are related by blood. But she does say, I know who he is, Corlys. He should be raised up in honor, not hidden beneath the tides.
Yeah, so. Which is a great, I think it speaks to Rhaenys' character, Yeah. Think about what Kat Stark did to Jon Snow.
Oh, yeah.
She tortured that poor boy.
She would have loved him dead.
Oh, yeah. She prayed for his death. Remember, it's one of the best scenes in Game of Thrones if you guys get a chance to rewatch it. And it just goes to show you that Rhaenys is like, listen, this happened. Fuck it. We ride, And you don't need to have this guy scrubbing barnacles off the hull of your ship. Like, you can bring him over for dinner. We'll ease him in, We'll ease him into the family.
Oh, yeah. And I think...
All the other kids are dead. She's probably like, it'd be nice to have him around.
It's interesting to me, though, that she doesn't know who the mother is. Or maybe she did, and that was just a comment about the mother being beautiful.
My impression was he was smanging at sea.
Yeah, but to have two, like Adam and Alan, right? Like, and then they've been around at high tide for their whole life.
That must have been like a paramour. That wasn't like a one and done.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. I don't know. That's a good question. It's lonely out on the ocean. You gotta have someone there to keep you warm. Officer and a gentleman. I think there's something. Isn't there? Have you seen that movie?
No.
Something about boat people banging. I don't know. I'll look into it. I also have in my notes, don't bring up officer and gentleman. But Alicent has a great scene with actually one of all of our favorite characters, Grand Maester Orwyle, who I think rates very highly.
Yeah, he got actually 0 votes. I think he was one of the only ones to get zero votes in our March Madness polls.
And there were a couple accidental clicks, and he didn't even get one of those. But she meets with him, and he's bringing her the Plan B tea that the Grand Maester last season gave to young Rhaenyra after she smanged Kristen.
I think he's keeping that Plan B tea shop in business.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. He's keeping that alive. And Alicent's chugging it because she keeps having, I guess we didn't see her take it earlier. Oh, but she was having sex with him too.
Yeah, maybe. But I think one of the more important parts here is we see the aftermath of Alicent's conversation with Rhaenyra. And Alicent is heavily questioning now, did she do the right thing with Aegon? Not that it matters, right? Because Aegon's on the throne. It's too late.
Don't even get me started.
But she is now questioning. She's reading history books that are just laid out all over the place. She even asked Grand Maester Orwyle, do you think that Viserys actually, do you believe that Viserys named Aegon the king? And he basically said, I don't know. He wouldn't tell me that. I know.
It was a good answer because he would have no clue. Yeah. He was like, shit, bitch, I don't know. He's like, why don't you just drink the tea? Yeah. All right, I'm the tea guy. All right, you don't go to Starbucks and ask the barista, who are you voting for?
People do that.
Yeah, and I'm going to start because I'm wearing a cardigan. So she drinks the tea. She throws it back. She clearly likes the party. And then from there, we have Rhaenyra's council, and it's being led by Baela.
Yeah, Baela's basically saying that the scouting she's doing on King's Landing has gone dry since that incident with Kristen Cole and Gawain Hightower.
A lot of discord.
And now they're, to Kristen Cole's credit, and we'll see later on, but this campaign is going tremendously successfully.
He's like, again, you don't need to like the Greens to acknowledge. It's like Tywin Lannister, right? He technically was a bad guy, I think, in the eyes of Game of Thrones, but he made some very great moves.
To have your army be able to hide during the day and then march at night without any candlelights or torchlights, I guess, or anything like that, that's a incredibly difficult logistical task. So anyway, so Baela's saying that it's gone dark. She can't track this army anymore. And then the council's talking about
they've gone dark.
The council's just still losing their head about Daemon being gone, not sending any word back.
Yeah.
Sir Alfred's questioning Rhaenyra's commitment to the war effort, and again, just saying like we need to be taking action and we're not because Rhaenyra's gone, or when Rhaenyra's here, she's not making decisions. And they're right. And, we'll dive into this later on when we talk about, our segment with strategy. But yeah, I mean, turns out he was pretty right. But.
First off, like we said, there's all this discord. There's no word from Daemon. There's no leadership that's like, if you'd sent Daemon, you'd be like, you send a word as soon as you get there what the situation is, right? No matter how mad you are. The safety of our entire house depends on knowing what the fuck the situation is. And then you have Sir Alfred, like you said, calling out everybody. And then Corlys shows up, and it's like, it was cool, but also I was like, was he just standing in the corner waiting for a moment to be like, whoa?
Yeah, like no one heralded him when he walked in. They weren't like, Lord Corlys of House Valyrian.
Yeah, no, he just, he comes strolling in, and he's like, what is up with all this, hoopla.
And then he doesn't really say anything though, but everyone did quiet down, but he didn't like make any decisions or anything.
And then he looked around, he's like, shit, you're right, this is all fucked up.
And then we flash to Duskendale, which is a town in the Crownlands and a castle in the Crownlands. The Darklands live there. They've been soundly defeated. Kristen Cole is offering pardons to those who pledge their fealty to King Aegon, and then offering head choppings to those who don't.
Yeah, which, tough choice, let me tell you, because you can use a good head chopping from time to time. But, he essentially is making it, everyone's kind of cursing his name. Duskendale, are those the guys that fucked with the Mad King?
Yeah.
Jeez, Duskendale, you sly dogs.
Remember Sir Barristan Selmy and the Defiance of Duskendale?
Look up the Defiance of Duskendale, guys. That's your homework this week from the Deep Thrones pod. It's a great story, and it really accelerates the Mad King's madness, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
So Cole is basically like, you have a choice. You can, bend the knee or lose your dome, and Lord Darkland says, Kingmaker. And he's like, wrong answer, Chief. And then boom, cuts his head off.
Darkland does have some quips for him. He says you're not fit for the white cloak. He says, you're basically going to get yours. Everybody gets theirs. I mean, that's not, everybody's. It's going to be a bad time for everyone involved.
Father Time's undefeated, regardless, and he gets his head cut off by Kristen Cole, and I was thinking Kristen Cole should name his sword the Kingmaker.
Ooh,
that'd be a cool nickname for it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He just did. This is a thing, and this is what you do, and this is from a little tip from me, and I feel like it's the cardigan speaking through me. When someone takes a shot at you, what you do is you take it and you buy into it, so then it becomes your own armor. I think Tyrion says so. I might have stolen that.
Yeah.
I might have stolen that from him.
Does he wear cardigans too?
He would.
He would.
Oh,
he
yeah,
totally would.
He would.
And then before this scene wraps up, this is basically where Kristen Cole reveals his plan to continue marching northeast to Rook's Rest instead of going to Harrenhal.
Yeah.
And Gawain Hightower has a problem with it, like he has a problem with everything.
Yeah, Gawain. I'm a Hightower fan, but Gawain he's a bit much. You don't need to be a contrarian about. We all know these people, though.
They wear cardigans. And,
not necessarily. Gawain is not a cardigan guy. He's wearing a Patagonia. He's wearing a Patagonia vest. And
he's wearing a Patagonia cardigan.
No, a vest and boat shoes. And you're like, this guy is pretty blue today. And he's like, well, actually, this guy, if you think about the particles, and it's this color and it's that color, and then he asks you about your portfolio, and I'm like, it's fucking doing great, Gawain. I was like, let's talk about Gawain for a sec, But anyway, I digress. We then go to the small council, and Aemon is discussing what we're discussing. They're marching on Rook's Rest. Aegon doesn't like it. He's like, we need to take Harrenhal. And then he looks at Larys, and he's like, by the way, what the fuck's up? You own Harrenhal for me. And Larys is like, yeah, but I'm here.
Yeah, well, Larys also has a great line here where he says, you shouldn't really be worried about losing Harrenhal. That castle's more crippled than I am.
Yeah.
And Aegon not laughing at that was a missed opportunity, I think. There should have been a laugh track put in that scene.
Yeah, definitely. We needed a little. Sadly, it was a rough. The greens have been up, but as we'll see, Aegon had a rough go. Aemond is really just flexing how much of a better fit he is to be king. He's using High Valyrian, basically saying, Harrenhal needs to wait. Kristen Cole's marching on Rook's Rest, and then starts dunking on Aegon. Like he said, what would you have done different?
this is really what you wanted, is to just be like sitting here, right? And Aegon is struggling to understand him, but then tries to respond, and it's just like jargon.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to like speak High Valyrian, so what he says essentially is like nonsense. And Aemond, really without any word from Aegon that he agrees, is like, awesome, so we're going with my plan,
Yeah.
So.
But one interesting thing here, Kristen Cole then is throwing his lot in with Aemond.
He
right?
is.
Because there's no communication to anyone else on the small council. Yeah. Aemond's then revealing this to everyone else on the small council, so not only does Aegon feel isolated, but I'm sure the other lords there are like, what the fuck? Like, why does Aemond know of this plan and we don't?
Yeah, but much like the Blacks, I think they're all getting kind of used to the Discord. So they're probably like, oh, they've been scheming, okay. Like, I think that they're in agreement that, like, what you're saying, I think, to them is true. You know? They're like, oh. But I think that's an intentional choice.
I mean, Larys should know in theory, since he's Master of Whispers. I feel like every Raven that goes in and out of the Red Keep, like
he's brand new. He probably hasn't even filled out his direct deposit info. He's just getting settled into the position. He has to still do the harassment training.
He did up his threads game though. I mean, he's looking
slick.
Out.
He's looking slick. He's wearing like the Baelish kind of like man dress that he wears, but it's like a nice one.
But it's got like gold all encrusted on it.
So Larys meets with Alicent after this because she wasn't at the small council meeting because she's sick, because the plan BT has side effects of sickness. And like we said, Larys' dressing is my only other note. And he also just knows that her and Cole are banging, and he uses it as an excuse to sort of tell her that he knows. He yields knowledge like it's a weapon.
Oh, yeah.
But he prods you with it just enough so that you know he knows, but he won't flat out tell you. He does it through sort of riddles, just to make you uncomfortable. That's his whole game.
He just wants you to know that, like, he's in control, I think. And that's good for him. It's gotten him a seat on the small council. So, and then they also talk about Alicent studying those histories again. And he's like, I didn't know you were so into histories like Viserys was. And basically, I think that's his way of kind of saying, like, I know. I mean, I think he might even be saying, I know you met with Rhaenyra.
Yeah, I took that as well because he brought it up.
Yeah,
he brought it up, and she actually even flat out asks him about like Viserys' intentions, and he sort of said like, well, I have no clue. He was staunch about Rhaenyra pretty much till the end. He's essentially what Orwyle said, and then Alicent sort of said, well, his intentions really died with him. Yeah, and he dropped a great line, which was, yes, it did.
Sure did.
Which is what I've been saying. It's like a cool. I mean, the Converse, like the whole. I had an issue, I think, with the amount of weight that, maybe not the show, but that the public has put on Viserys' dying words. Because it didn't matter. The Greens were going to usurp. Otto wasn't waiting for a last minute. Alicent showed up and they were already doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, on the grand scale, it does not matter. But one beautiful part about this show is, like, it's focused on a small family at the kind of core of it. And to them, like, Viserys' words really matter. And you can see that it's shaking up Alicent, that she got this wrong.
Yeah, that's true. That I could see, you're right. For character development for Alicent and Rhaenyra, too, that's huge. Because it's, Rhaenyra, it's what she's been waiting for, which is her father's affirmation. And for Alicent, it's, wow, he didn't love his kids at all. He didn't really love me at all.
And you can see that she kind of passes down that non-love for Aegon in a later scene here.
Yeah, and then from there, we got some more Daemon nightmares.
He's hallucinating all over the place. He's drawing his sword, walking around here.
It's a hallucination. You're right. It's not really a nightmare. It's more of a hallucination, which really is just it's a wake mare, a daymare. And yeah, he's tripping balls.
He's following what looks like Aemond from the back, and then all of a sudden he kind of turns around and it's Daemon with one eye.
Jeez.
Which, you got your sword drawn, you're ready to swing, and you see yourself. And like, oh.
Yeah. He was kind of like lurking behind him, and it's sort of like, who's this cookie over here? And then you get up close, they turn around, you're like, oh!
And then he finds himself in Alice Rivers' like potion room, kind of.
Yeah, it's nice of them to give her a
lab.
lair. Yeah, she's got a lab where she mixes potions and various herbs, I assume.
Yeah.
And I loved Alice. I loved this character already. That she's very, her accent was kind of cute, like a Scottish thing going on.
Yeah, I mean, she's a mystery in the books, so I like what they're doing with her on the show. The straightforward manipulation of Damon is interesting to me. That he's just like he's letting her talk to him about his intentions and how he's quarreling with his wife and all this stuff, and then he also just drinks her potion because she says it'll make him go to sleep. I don't know if he's like already under a spell that he's just cool with all this stuff.
I think he is, yeah. He must be. Because he's like, you're a witch, I don't trust you. And she's like, have a sip. And he's like, sure.
Yeah.
He's like, I am parched. Thank you. He's like, is this lemonade? But yeah, so very cool character development so far by her. And Damon, I think, is scared and intrigued. And
maybe just enchanted at this point.
Well, yeah, after he sips, then it cuts to him essentially still sipping, but he's at like a council meeting, and he's meeting with Willem Blackwood.
Yeah, so he's like you said, he's tripping balls, wakes up, he's speaking to Willem Blackwood. Simon Strong's like repeating himself because Damon didn't hear him the first couple times. But essentially, this is Damon's attempt to get those swords in the Riverlands. He's trying to directly recruit the Blackwoods. And Sir Willem Blackwood says he'll fight for Damon as long as he shows up with the dragon to Bracken Soil.
Yeah, I don't think Damon liked that very much.
I mean, that's the price of what you need.
And while this is happening, Lena from the older Lena from season 1, not the younger actress like they're doing with Millie, is walking around serving drinks, and he's just fully tripping, and he's seeing ghosts from his past and guilts from left and right, and various things. Dude, I mean, that's a bad trip.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine tripping and it's just all the things that you feel shame and guilt about from your life. That's tough.
He's shockingly calm for this sort of stuff that he's seeing.
Yeah, he's got a strong constitution. I'd be freaking out. I would have already beheaded everyone in the castle.
I would have called 911.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I need an IV.
We then go to Aegon's small council, and there's a lot of economic talk. Kingmaker's making the rounds. Everyone's calling Kingmaker.
Yeah. So the small council scene is an interesting one, and it's easy to kind of miss what they're talking about. But it's all logistics. It's all supply chain management. But specifically around Kristen Cole's army marching north, and they mention sheep, and there not being enough on the path for Vhagar, which was a hint. And if you were listening, you could have known that Vhagar was there with Kristen Cole's host. So maybe the Battle of Rick's Rest didn't surprise you too much if you caught that. But then Aegon just goes, you bore me. You all bore me. And walks out.
Which is like not the greatest excuse to leave a small council meeting in the middle of a war, No? Be like, I'm pretty bored. I'm going to peace out, But he goes and he treats with Alicent.
Treats with Alicent. He goes and runs to Mommy to ask what to do.
I think she's in his chambers. Technically, because she's like, yo, where the fuck are these books? And he's like, I got rid of the books. They were taking up valuable space. And then I think that's what I perceived.
Okay, I thought it was her chambers.
Might be. I don't know. Maybe he got rid of them there. It could have been.
On the rewatch, we'll come back.
But he talks to her, and they're talking about the council, and he's sort of seeking advice, and she's kind of taking shots at him. Yeah, she hates her son. She hates him for what she did, and it's an all-time bad mom move, but also like Aegon does kind of suck. But still, you shouldn't, like, you put him in this situation and now you're gonna like call him weak, you're gonna berate him to his face, you're gonna say that all you have to do is sit the throne and do nothing, shut up. Like, Alicent, again, this is like all you're doing. Even through Otto, like, you were still a willing participant, so. It's a nature versus nurture scenario too, a little bit. Where it's like, she doesn't accept, I think, her role.
Right, yeah.
Like you said, like she looks at him in season 1, she's like, you're no son of mine. It's like, well, he is, though. I hate, it's like when Tywin said it to Tyrion, and Tyrion had the best line back, which is, I am your son. You got to remember, like, your parents have an effect on these kids, man. How do I reach these keys?
And not
the way Alicent's done it.
No.
Take note on what not to do. We also see Kristen preparing his men for a bit of a siege.
Yeah, so they're outside Rick's Rest. You can see the military mind of Kristen Cole here. Again, he kind of sucks in the Red Keep, but we talked about, like, he might shine out in the field, and we see that he's, a tactician. He's logistically avoiding the dragons. He's setting up siege weapons. He's got this ambush planned out. So yeah, I mean, we kind of knew that he would perform better in the field than he did within the Red Keep, but
I bet Allison had a pretty good idea about his performance. She's getting no complaints from her, and he's killing it in the field right now. He's 4 for 4 on castles or 3 for 3, and obviously he's doing exactly what he set out to do. He hasn't missed a beat, while the blacks have sat on their hands and gone on day trips to make sure war is official before they, get too involved. The Greens have been acting. The Greens have been, bringing people to Aegon's claim. They've been shoring up the forces of King's Landing. Remember, we saw Sir Arik with the Scorpions. So, it's just cool to see that one side understands the gravity of what's at place while the other side goes on field trips.
yeah, no, that's I can't really say anything to that one.
You've been cardiganed. Rhaenyra shows up to the council, and they're having a black council, and Rhaenyra shows up to the council, and now a little reverse. We had a mom yelling at her son, now we have the son yelling at the mom. Jace is going hard in the paint.
Yeah, Jace has given her sauce, and rightfully so. She just goes missing for like a little bit over a week with no word.
Giving her sauce.
He's like, you just disappeared, essentially. Rhaenyra then's like, oh, I was gone for good reason. I was treating with Allison. And he's like, what the fuck? You were doing what?
He had a Sheedy reaction. Yeah.
Yes, he had the reaction that a lot of us had while watching the episode. A lot of people didn't.
Yeah.
But I think, and this is where
But Rhaenyra's response was in defense of the other take.
To avoid war at all costs. Or make sure that there's no other path.
Before unleashing the nukes.
Yes.
But finish your thought.
This is kind of in response to your kind of riff about how the Greens are acting and the Blacks are sitting on their hands. It turns out like these Lord Celtigar, the people on Rhaenyra's Black Council who were always urging for action, turns out that they were super right. Let's keep in mind on Kristen Cole's march north, it was House Rosby, it was House Stokeworth, it was House Darkland, all three of which claimed for Rhaenyra.
Right.
And all you had to do was take some sort of action, call their banners, have them organize an army. And then they could have met Kristen Cole with some resistance. Instead, they're caught off guard. They're just waiting. They end up flipping sides because Kristen Cole actually takes action and takes the castles. And now you have an army that's triple the size it left from King's Landing showing up at Rick's Rest. And it's, again, like this is a theme of what we've been seeing so far. By the time Rhaenyra decides to take action, it's too late.
You're right. I didn't even think of it that way, where those 3 castles could have gathered their hosts together and fought side by side. And to make matters worse, the Queen's Guard who went with her on that suicide mission was the son of Lord Darkland, who was just beheaded in the earlier scene. So we're seeing sort of the ramifications of one side acknowledging the truth that's staring them in the face and sort of being like, all right, well, there's one move and that's forward. And another side, and I'm not saying that, listen, diplomacy is 100% always the right move. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But, and I joked this to you, and this is the last I'll say it, but I jokingly called Rhaenyra Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Because it's a deep grab for history buffs out there. But he was the Prime Minister of England before Winston Churchill. And when Germany, who was the first country they invaded? Was it Belgium?
No. It was Austria. They annexed Austria.
And then they invaded.
And then Czechoslovakia.
But after every single time, he was like, hey, you can't do that after World War I. We said no. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay. And they kept doing it. And each time he was like, hey, now. Mm-hmm. All right, that's the last one. That one's the last one. All right, that's the last one.
There's a famous thing that, in this whole, you can Google search this. It's called The Appeasement. And it's right before World War II started. But there's this whole thing where Neville Chamberlain declared peace at last or whatever, and avoided another World War. And then, like, Germany invaded Poland.
Yeah.
And then it was like, all right, well.
Yeah. He was, and Neville Chamberlain was like, listen, I probably should step down. I probably shouldn't do this.
Exactly.
But I do agree. Renee, what she did was 100%. She wanted to avoid war. That's very important. And I think that this is just that the Greens were reading a different playbook necessarily. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean she's wrong. It's just that the Greens were doing their own thing on the side.
Yeah.
The Greens, because there's so much discord. Sorry, we're going long on this combo, but I think it's worthy of it.
Yeah, definitely. Here's what I'll say to that last point. The Greens playbook, it wasn't a different playbook because Rhaenyra had the information that Kristen Cole was on the march. Rhaenyra had the information that her son Luke was killed. Rhaenyra had the information that Jaehaerys, Aegon's son, was killed. So like blood was spilled. They even knew about the Burning Mill battle. So like I don't know that it's a different necessarily a different playbook. I think she's just running the wrong place if we're using that analogy.
That's fair. And then she says right now they're like we have to defend Rook's Rest or else all the Lord Lieges who've pledged for you are going to start feeling like you're abandoning them. And she says, all right, I'll go. And everyone's like, nah, not you. No. Not you. And Jace is right. He's like, you can't go. You are our cause. And Rainey steps up, says, me and Meleys were battle-tested. We'll do it.
Meleys, the Red Queen, biggest dragon on the black side. Good pick to go.
Yeah, it's the right choice, for sure.
Good pick to go.
Other than maybe it and Caraxes, but again, this is a necessary evil. Daemon is trying to get people to his cause. I maybe would have sent Jace to do that and kept Daemon close with Caraxes, but it's neither here nor there. Okay. Aegon, who the last scene, we should have touched on this, Alicent told him, just do nothing. Just stay out of the way and do nothing. He hated that advice. He's sitting in his chambers, and he's like, no, I'm going to do something. He starts suiting up. He puts on Aegon the Conqueror's antique, probably very, very pricey armor, and he gets on Sunfire. He does a couple of laps around King's Landing, sips back a couple of suds, and he takes off.
He's going to get in the thick of it, like a moron.
And I want to give I honestly, watching this, without hindsight of how it ends, I was like, great choice, my king. I love you. Very smart move. Can't wait to see how it turns out. As this happens, there's like a montage of him doing that, of Rhaenys getting on Meleys, kind of looks at Corlys. She says, like, we're going to battle again, old girl, and, like, High Valyrian. And Rhaenyra is telling Jace about the Song of Ice and Fire. Which
is, I think, an important part of this episode that might be, because of the way that the scenes were split up, I think it might be slept on a little bit, but this is Rhaenyra basically saying, yeah, the gloves are off, we're going to war. In case I die, you need to know this because you're my...
Yeah. And he learns about the Song of Ice and Fire. And for him, after having been in the North and hearing Craig and Stark say that about Beyond the Wall and having her tell him about the prophecy coming from the North, that should tie some loose ends up for Jace. Mm-hmm. But he kind of has a dumb look on his face. And anyway, Rhaenys hops on. And Rhaenyra says a great line, which is like, she's not fighting this war and unleashing these nuclear weapons for a crown alone. Yeah. There's something higher at stake, which I do like. That changes the game for me for all of Rhaenyra's decisions. It does. It really does. It adds validity to a lot of her decisions, I think, because she believes in what her father told her about Aegon's dream, which is that she needs to unite the realm. But also, like, they don't know Aegon. What if he just was a fucking crackpot having wacky dreams?
I mean, but he's the conqueror, so you got to listen to him.
Sure.
But yeah, she even talks about uniting the realm against a common foe, like you were saying, tying up some loose ends from what Jace heard up north. So yeah, it was a good scene, but again, it could be easily missed just because of how it was juxtaposed with, Aegon flying off and Rhaenys flying off with Meleys.
And then from there, we got Rook's Rest, baby. We got the battle. There's a lot going on here. It's pretty complicated. Cole's gathering siege weapons. They're getting started. And then they see the dragon in the distance, and Cole's sort of like, all right, spread out, men. We're trying to pull in Meleys a little bit because he's laid a bit of a trap. You pointed something out that I loved, which goes back to our Rhaenyra conversation, which is who's leading the van.
Yeah. They led the van with Rosby troops and with Darkland troops.
They basically were like, hey, Castles who just joined our cause, you're going to help us deal with this.
You're going to go up front. You're going to be our trap to get a dragon fire just breathed all over you.
Prove your loyalty.
Hey, and apparently, the Rook's Rest is not a huge castle, right? So you maybe have 100 men defending that castle. Still, you have open field in front of it, so 100 men inside there could do some damage on your guys
for sure.
And Meleys shows up, does more damage, and all of a sudden, Kristen Cole starts signaling for this ambush to be laid.
Yeah.
And the responder to the signals was not the person who it was intended for.
So Vagar is essentially hiding in the woods. Aemon's on her back, excuse me, and they're getting ready to like go. And then he sees Sunfire overhead, and obviously Aegon was just showing up regardless. Like he wasn't like waiting for the signal. It just timed out really poorly, and Aemon's sort of pissed because that wasn't part of the plan. And he's like, "Fine, you do it then." And he hangs back.
Aemon just lets Aegon roll in. Aegon comes in confidently, breathes fire right away. Melees and Rhaenys are more, battle tested, so they wait for their moment and then attacks, breaks the bottom of Sunfire. So Sunfire's like crippled at this point.
We've not seen dragon fights like this.
I thought it was well executed
during the day. It was, and they're big on their claws together and sort of duke it out. There's some dragon fire. And Cole is sort of pissed. He's like, keep sending the signal, because he's like, first off, what the fuck is Aegon even doing here? Gawain is like, what's the king doing here? And Cole is like, I don't know. But he uses it to rally the men.
Yep.
He's like, look at your king is here, like it's Rome Total War 2, that video game. And then they all sort of charge into battle. And finally, Aemon shows up on Vagar. It's a very cool reveal, because also the Lord is very staunch. He's like, keep fighting. We're not giving up this castle, and he won't retreat either.
Yeah, I mean, he has no choice. It's you decide to fight, like you're getting beheaded, so might as well fight it out. Vagar shows up. Aegon's actually excited for a second, but then he realizes, Aemon doesn't necessarily care who's in the way of Vagar. And Vagar gets in front of both of Sunfire and Melees while they're tied up, and just blast them.
There's a little Dracarys action. Does way more damage to Sunfire and Aegon. They take the hit, and then they go crashing below, and we have no clue what happened to them, at least at this point. Kristen Cole is obviously like, we need to get to the king. He gets sort of torched up, and he collapses. He doesn't get torched, but he sort of takes some fodder, and he goes down. Also, I want to give a quick shout-out. Grey Worm, take note. Kristen Cole was wearing this thing called a helmet. And normally when men are in battle, they wear helmets.
I mean,
I love the attention to detail.
The Red Viper needs to take a note from that one.
Well, so essentially Vagar then gets into it with Melees, and Melees sort of puts him down.
Yeah, so it was interesting how they filmed this. Rhaenys had an opportunity to get away, essentially.
Yeah.
After Vagar torched Sunfire, and she has a moment in the air where she's like, I could potentially end this now. I think is what's going through in her mind. We'll probably get more information on our Deeper Thrones episode where we watch the behind the scenes. But to me, it was, I could end this now. I'm not that significant anymore. I'm the queen that never was. I'm not going to have a shot at the throne again. Let's just see what we can do, sort of thing. And almost like a goodbye to her dragon, turns around and starts fighting with Vagar.
Yeah. And they duke it out again. She puts Vagar down on the ground, then makes a second pass and can't really find Vagar. And then as she's flying over the castle, Vagar pops up, grabs Melees on the neck, and just the saddest scene of Melees slowly sort of lights out. Rhaenys just crying, sees it, and falls back on Melees' back, crashes to the ground below. She's dead. That's an official death for both of those characters. There's no ambiguity about it. This isn't a fantasy. Well, it's a fantasy, but it's not. This isn't a fantasy. But it's not a world where they survive. So if you're new to this world,
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Rhaenys Targaryen, the
queen that never was and officially never will be.
All right, come on. The body's not even cold yet.
I said that earlier, and I was like, I'm gonna say it again on the pod. I wrote down say it again on the pod. Oh, but don't tell them you said it earlier. Fuck.
The body's not even cold yet, but
she was on fire first, so I assume it's pretty hot. Still.
She was, I think, one of the better characters on this show.
Agreed.
And tragic, she kind of... I feel like even up until the end, she was wishy-washy about what she wanted her role in this war to be. And I think, right in that moment that we were just talking about where she turned around, I think that was where she decided what she wanted that role to be.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for her, her death ended in not ending the war.
Yeah. I think she, think about Damon's conversation with her earlier this season about how she could have ended it. That was probably lingering in her mind. Like maybe this could be my comeuppance for that.
Yeah. And
she's a great character, and obviously now we have to see Corlys's reaction. Think about Corlys. Think about Laenor, Laena, and now Rhaenys. He's had nothing but and his own injuries. A lot of sadness. Also, his ship is still in pretty rough shape.
Yeah. You forgot about Vayman, too. Vayman died.
Who? Oh, yeah, his brother.
Wow. His brother who tried to take all his glory.
I guess, though, this is a glass half full, a really good time to connect with his other sons.
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
Maybe throw the ball around.
But yeah, really, I mean, R.I.P. Rhaenys. We'll miss you. But the war goes on.
In the arms of an angel. We'll do our 21 gun salute for Rhaenys. You're a great character. We appreciate you. And like Chris says, Kristen Cole wakes up. It's like very Saving Private Ryan. He's sort of like in the smoke and shit. And he sees Gwaine in the background like, breach, men, breach. So they're taking the castle. Rook's Rest has fallen.
Melee's body broke the castle walls, essentially. And Gwaine organized the men to rush through. And that's about it. Kristen Cole walks over while Gawaine's kind of leading that charge.
He goes to the woods
to
find Sunfire and Aegon, and while he's there, Aemon is like drawing his sword, like he's almost like trying to put Aegon out of his misery, or maybe the dragon. We don't know. It's left very ambiguous. And Cole's like, Aemon, and Aemon slowly puts it away. He's like, oh, look at that! I found this sword. It's pretty cool. And then he picks up the dagger, the cat's paw dagger, laying on the ground, and it's very ambiguous if Aegon's dead or not.
Yeah.
But in the just watch the look ahead if you're wondering if he is or isn't. But yeah, so that's it. Is Sunfire dead? Sunfire was not. It was making noise.
No, yeah, he's seething on the ground essentially.
Gotta get some Neosporin on that thing ASAP.
I mean, broken, very very broken. Also, Rhaenys, according to canon, her birthday was the 7th day of the 7th month, right?
Yeah, which would be today.
That would be today. So. That's kind of poetic.
Yeah, this scene happening today, the Jaehaerys scene happening on Father's Day,
Yikes.
These guys are so tuned in, these show writers. But that was season 2, episode 4 of House of the Dragon.
And it was great. What would you rate this one?
I gave it an 8.5. I really liked it.
No, you didn't. He's literally looking at my laptop and just reads
You honestly think I could see that with my eyes? Listen,
all right.
I know the cardigan's new, but I can't. It didn't improve my eye health. Did you put 8.5?
I did, but now I'm gonna do. Watch this, 8.45.
Okay, that's fine. We could have the same rating.
No, no.
Okay, that's
fine.
fine.
I don't want a cardigan rating.
That's fine. Well, that's you. First off, you don't deserve a cardigan rating.
But yeah, I think this was the strongest episode of the season.
Agreed.
I wouldn't say there were that many dialogue reveals, but Rook's Rest was kind of what this has been building up to. It was nice to see Rhaenyra finally grasp that the war is on. So and also Daemon's just like his plan at Harrenhal is just not really going the way that we anticipated.
Well, it's a bad time to become a slacker stoner and start tripping balls left and right. This is a really tough time to be doing that. He should have focused in. But I give it an 8.5. It's the strongest episode of this season. I don't know if it's the strongest episode of the series. I liked one in season 1 a little bit better. The battle was awesome. Daytime battle. Like, they didn't shy away from it at all. They went into it. I would have liked to have seen more men on the ground duking it out. But technically, that would have been incorrect. And that was, you're holding a castle. Why would you meet them on the ground?
Yeah.
So they did the right thing. Shout out to the showrunners for not going with my bad battle tactic impulses.
Well, and it was the first time that we really saw, a fully fleshed out dragon fight and Dance of Dragons.
And they did it during daytime. That's ballsy. Shout out to the HBO visual effects team.
They look great.
Best line, yes, queen.
So my best line's from Alicent Hightower, and this is that scene where she's speaking to Larys, and she said the significance of Viserys' intentions died with him. And it's true. Like, it's funny that she comes to this realization now, but she's also reading through all these history books and kind of questioning herself in this episode. So I wonder if she's just putting on a strong front in front of Larys.
I do think it's funny. Yeah, it is funny. I agree with you, because before she was like, listen, Viserys chose Aegon. And then she learned he was talking about the Conqueror. He's like, well, he's fucking dead anyway. Who cares what he thinks? That guy, he didn't know what he was talking about. Who cares?
What's your best line?
My best line is just Kingmaker. When Darkland calls Kristen Cole Kingmaker. Because again, Kristen, we're going to, buddy, me and you, we're going to roll this into a positive. We're gonna pull a we're gonna you know what? We're gonna pull a Mr. Worldwide, a pit bull. We're gonna turn a negative into a positive.
Is that what Mr.
I'm
Worldwide
pretty sure.
does?
I swear to God, I'm not even kidding. I think he spoke at a conference about like business, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the focus was about turning negatives into positives.
Oh my gosh,
And it's just this is just a cardigan activity. Is going to conferences where Pitbull tells you how to improve your life.
love that. Well, why don't you go with your Yas Queen since I forgot to say mine, and then
Mine is Allison. Do simply what is needed of you. Nothing.
Love that. I had that actually, and I also knew that you were going to have that, so I did a backup. My Yas Queen is Damon talking to, not Lord Tully, the younger Oscar Tully, and he says, House Tully is a fish with no head.
Good call. Seems like a Tully pattern.
Oh, yeah, old people
choked
not
on the
being
word.
able to make decisions.
Yeah, and also choked on the word pattern. Hottest moment.
My hottest moment was when Aegon's small council was just hijacked by Aemond.
Yeah,
And then he busted out the High Valyrian and just owned Aegon. That was great.
That was great. My hottest moment has to be another Aemond-based scene, Vhagar showing up at the battle. Because you know, like in Rhaenys' head, she kind of knew. She had to be like, oh, no, boy.
Oh, no.
I would have been like, I'm going to head out. I'm going to get out of here. You two seem to have this one under control. Good luck, Castle.
She could have gotten out of there.
It's not her nature to retreat.
Well, actually, we'll talk about in our Deeper Thrones episode that drops on Wednesday. We'll talk about the actual schematics, or I guess fluidity of the battle in the books version versus this version, because it did go down a little bit differently. I will say I did like what I saw on screen and just kind of the different takes on it. But we'll dive into that on Wednesday.
It's adding layered dimensions to it. Even with the all the scenes we've seen is adding a lot of character, like Rhaenyra going out of her way to try to avoid war. It's showing her heart. This scene is showing sort of Aemon's true intentions, Aegon's struggle with validity. It's showing the real struggles of these characters, which isn't fleshed out in the books because it's a history book.
Exactly.
So, Mount Rushmore.
We got a good one this week. So, Mount Rushmore of revolutions and rebellions.
But it could be from the world of Westeros and real life.
Correct. So, this is in honor of the 4th of July.
Yes. You go first. I went first, I think, 2 times in a row.
Okay. I'll lead us off. This is the obvious one. The French Revolution.
Yes, of course.
The obvious one.
Yeah.
How could you forget?
You guys saw this one coming, right? Oui.
Viva la France.
Yes, Viva la France.
But honestly, that's probably one of my favorite chapters in history. If you haven't researched it, just
who were the big players in that? Was that Marie Antoinette?
She got beheaded in the beginning.
She was eating cake and stuff.
Yeah.
She was like, if they're fucking so pissed, give them cake, and it didn't work.
That line is actually argued if she actually said that or not.
She probably said, please don't cut my head off.
Yeah. Probably something along those lines. But yeah, French Revolution.
I'm going to go with a Game of Thrones based one, the Greyjoy Rebellion. And I know what you're thinking. Ooh. Why? I like the Greyjoy Rebellion because it actually was the startup, essentially, the LLC that would eventually lead to Theon getting just hella business. And if you remember on old Deep Thrones, we loved business age Theon.
Oh, yeah.
And this was sort of the beginning of the business for him.
This is the beginning of the end for Reek.
Yep.
That's a good one. People forget about the Greyjoy Rebellion. I'm going to go with the Roberts Rebellion.
Oh, that's just a great one.
Kick off to Game of Thrones. Enough said.
I'm going to go with the Industrial Revolution.
Ooh, I had that one on my big board.
You like cars? You like cars? Sure, it's a little smoggy, and the ice caps are gone, and soon so will like half of Florida be. But you like cars? Also, these, I guarantee you, they did not have cardigans pre-Industrial Revolution. There's no chance.
You know what? Honestly, someone get back to us on that. Fashionista. My next one's going to be the Russian Revolution.
Oui. Or I don't know.
Big one.
Yeah.
People forget.
I'm going to go with my third will be the Blackfire Rebellions.
Good ones.
Look them up. I won't spoil anything because we might see them in the future, but another little Targaryen spout.
We will see one of them in the future confirmed. I don't know how many we'll see past that, but the Dunk and Egg series
Oh, that's right.
should have one in there.
That's hot. Number 4?
Oh, shit. I didn't do 4. Okay. The Chinese Communist Revolution.
Wow.
Mao Zedong, chairman.
That's awesome. Cool. I'm going to go with 4th of July, the American Revolution.
Yeah.
You got to. We had to. We had to do it to him.
We had to do it.
And it's great. You're watching all these English actors, and it's really nice to see them doing their thing and just knowing that, I don't have to talk with an accent like that. It's pretty nice. I don't have to be like, "Oh, good morrow, mother."
And we'll hit fireworks once we leave here.
The Chicago White Stockings are playing great. Thank God we won that war. You blew it. Oh God, I'm not even prepared.
You blew it. I'll lead this one off. So, my you blew it is Aegon showing up to be a hero at Rook's Rest. I mean,
and he was.
He flew in hot. Ready to save the day. And turns out, Aegon, you blew it, buddy.
You blew it, Aegon. But we care about you and we wish for a speedy recovery.
Not all of us do.
Yeah, a fair amount. Mine is Vhagar, because you kind of blew it too, buddy. I love you, Vhagar, but you sprayed your king with fire, and that's not great. So Vhagar,
You blew it.
you literally blew it.
Vhagar has no king. Interesting. So I was actually thinking about this on the drive over here. Vhagar is the last dragon living from Aegon's conquest.
That's right.
Female dragon, ridden by Visenya. Just interesting take that, the queen conqueror is now on the green side, which is the male claim, and being used to fight against, the female
Interesting.
incumbent or female queen.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I think everyone views Vhagar too as evil, because it looks old and scary.
Yeah.
But did Visenya, didn't she pull some misgivings to get Maegor on the throne?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she was
a little slippery, right?
Yeah.
All right, crown their ass, which is a new fan favorite. I'll go first in this one. I'm gonna crown. I've done the polling. I've looked at the data. I'm gonna crown Alice Rivers. She had a
Okay.
great episode. I like her accent, and I think she's silly. So Alice Rivers.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
I would love some of those. Give me some of those potion recipes.
No, you don't want any of those.
All right.
I'm gonna crown Rhaenys Targaryen. Simple one. We talked about it, but a little post-mortem. We love you.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Crown her ass.
Crown her, and also maybe give her a eulogy. She's dead. Strategy with Lord Mims. Green's up. Chris, if you are the Blacks, how would you have handled Rook's Rest? Because they lost that battle.
Oh they lost. They lost big time. I think we kind of touched on it earlier when we were talking about taking action, and the 3 castles and strongholds to get to Rook's Rest were all Black supporters in the beginning, and all of a sudden they weren't, because an army showed up and they had no organization and no leadership and no direction on what to do. So I think, that would have been my plan. Is the lords and ladies that declared to your banners, raise them, whether it's at Harrenhal or whether it's at Rook's Rest or somewhere, but organize them somewhere so that they can defend themselves. If you're Rhaenyra, you don't have to send them marching to King's Landing or wherever it may be. They can be ready to go, but because of your indecisiveness, you had no battle readiness, and this is what happens. You lose 4 castles in the span of probably a week.
Wow. Rhaenyra kind of low-key blew it a little bit this week, you could say. That's tough. I don't know if Rhaenyra's had a you blow it yet on the show. I might have done a couple. But that's interesting. You're right. I never thought of it that way, and I loved your take that she could have just gathered all those hosts, met Cole in the field, and he wouldn't have had the large army. You would have. Now, Vhagar and Sunfire are, of course, curveballs, but you never know. You can send someone. You have dragons too, All right, trial by combat. This week, I came up with a great show, and again, this is part of the redemption tour. We got cardigans. We got. I got non-skids on. I got non-skid socks on because I knew this was going to be.
They're Christmas themed.
They're the only ones. Yeah, because I thought Christmas kind of sounded like Kristen.
Ugh.
So I was trying to have my boys back because he's taking so much heat in the media. The lamestream media is coming at him left and right. And so HBO wants Westeros content. So I'm going to write some Westeros content for them. and I am here to give them exactly what they want, the products that they want. And but what happens in my show is while Kristen Cole is marching through the Crownlands, he gets sucked into a portal that warps him to present-day New York, where he's going to learn that being a single 30-something-year-old knight isn't all it's chalked up to be. Right? Can you imagine Kristen Cole in present-day New York? How he'd be so confused. It's this whole new world.
I feel like he would fit in better there than he would.
I agree.
In the Red Keep.
I agree. He would fit in. He's kind of like he's just one of those weird dudes.
He'd probably like end up on like The Bachelor or something.
Whoa. I would love that for Kristen. And this is my hit show. It's called One Night in New York. 1KNI.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just had to be sure. So imagine Christian and his new group of buddies, all single. They got zany pals. They're creating his Tinder account, you know.
What's on his, like, what's his Tinder bio?
Oh, a man of chivalry, honorable knight, looking for a woman who is the image of the mother. You know, so he's got that going on. And, like, you know, I mean, he's a very generous lover, historically speaking. So he's catch ladies. You can't argue that he's not a good-looking fella. And he doesn't, you know, he's got some emotional issues. And it's sort of like Sex in the City, but if it had a male character. And, of course, the male character was from a medieval world. And he was also a knight. But imagine the hijinks. Like, when a girl he is, like, dating gets harassed at a bar and Kristen like pulls his sword, right? And like, or is his Morning Star and he kills him. Wouldn't that be cool? And his buddy's like, bartender, check please. You know, it's just a fun New Year. Come on. Like, you wouldn't watch One Night in New York?
I would, 100%.
And this is my final. This is coming to NBC, One Night in New York this fall. Go down on her with honor.
Oh gosh.
Honor with honor. One Night in New York.
I mean, I wouldn't miss an episode because, and you know, I'd probably only get like a pilot, honestly.
Yeah, you wouldn't miss an episode because it wouldn't get picked up. You can't miss this one this fall. But I think that's a great. I mean,
the name is fantastic. Honestly, I could see like a rom-com being made with that plot line, except minus like the killing people.
You get it, right? Because night, you think of like nighttime, but it's night spelled like what he is, which is a knight.
How do you say that with a straight face?
One Night in New York.
Oh yeah,
coming this fall.
Great, yeah. No, I would watch for sure.
I would too. I think it would ingratiate the Greens a little bit to a more mainstream audience. You know.
Well, great. So if you guys liked what you listened to just now, including A Night in New York, tune in to
One Night, KNIGHT.
Tune in Wednesday for a new episode of Deeper Thrones. Like I said, we're going to discuss the actual book battle of Rick's Rest, and then we're also going to talk about the behind the scenes that we see in this episode. So it'll be one that you don't want to miss. Great episode, best one of the season. So Deeper Thrones should be the best one of the season.
Definitely agree with that. Check it out. Follow us up on all social medias, TikTok, YouTube, X, Instagram. And Allison, hit me up. We can have One Night in the Red Keep.
Check out the head switch, shooters on swoosh, hitters don't miss. Already just added a ton of y'all to my list. Bitch, death wish, not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots.